Here's another perfect example on some of the known issues with these capacitors on the cluster. As you guys can see, I am currently traveling. See something wrong with that picture? So I believe that the issue that I'm experiencing with the temperature might be related, but let's try to replace some sensors and see what happens. Lexus LS400. Oftentimes you hear these words paired up together with reliability and just overall exceptional build quality. I still believe in the same aspects, although my mind has been open quite a bit. If you care to see what I'm talking about, today's episode is for you. If you are in the market to buy an LS400, or if you do own an LS400, chances are you already know what I'm going to talk about. You cannot afford to miss this episode. Why do I tell you that? Because this vehicle has turned into a giant cluster. It's always smart to open this up to make the process quicker, relieve the pressure, and she will, well, empty herself out a little quicker. These guys are a must. If you have not invested on one of these, do yourself a favor and do not hesitate. This funnel has paid for itself hundreds of times. I'll put a link in the description down below, along with, of course, all these parts. These are the ones I'm going to tackle for right now, but let's face it, guys, not trying to sound like a Debbie Downer, but I have a feeling that our issue is mostly and most likely a capacitor issue with the cluster. But hey, you know what? We don't know when this one was replaced. We know that these were never replaced, let's face it. So why not? Super easy and very easy to access. First step, of course, we'll take this off. After a few hours, there is quite a decent amount of fluid in the pan. But now you guys are probably wondering, well, where can we find these temperature sensors? Well, the first one, guys, driver's side, and it is on the radiator. If you look all the way down there, I'm sure you'll see that guy. Yep. That's the one, the big one, I should say. And then the other one would be literally buried right behind the spark plug cables. It is that plug right there. Needless to say, I am a little concerned with the shape that this plastic must be after 28 years. So wish me luck, and hopefully nothing is brittle. We will see. Well, first thing is I actually, as with everything I do on an engine bay, make room for yourself to work, obviously. Being that you did drain the coolant, so even if you're not sure if the hose has coolant or not, chances are you're going to be okay. So, as always, put it back where you took it out of. Look at that. Already a little crack, but now I have a little more room, and this is where I get a little iffy about this. Hopefully, please don't crack. Please don't break. I can't even watch. After a little bit of finesse, there he is, right there. I gotta say, can't wait to get this off because it does look like it's the original one. Wow. Look at the buildup over time. I mean, I would like to think that we're going to make some sort of improvement here. I mean, what do you guys think? But when everything's said and done, I mean, this thing really has to be the original one. Well, let's get her back in the hole. As far as today's project, we're going to go ahead and correct this hack over here. And although I did not know correct hose, this will hopefully do the trick. Looks like we got the right size, so let's go ahead and correct that. After we are done cutting a piece of just about the same exact size, I went ahead and also wanted to get rid of this and managed to find this guy, which is my clamp of choice, by the way. And unfortunately, I don't have another one, so I'm gonna have to reutilize this one for now. But I do want to show you guys why I felt that it was important to replace this hose. So you can see here, this was just on the removable of the hose, crack right open. It is indeed very brittle, so that's a good thing. A whole bunch of other clamps. But what I did also is sourced out all my vacuum hoses that I got laying around. There is a very good reason for it. Let me show you really closely. Yeah, this is what you will encounter with a car of this age. So it's always good to be somewhat prepared. Again, just like with everything else I've been telling you guys, always do one hose at a time. You'll never mess up the orientation. And to make my life easier to slide this back in, a little bit of grease goes a long way. There you have it. One little tiny hose replaced. Now let's go on to the super easy one. And there is, of course, two ways you can go about this. One, you can try to break this hose loose while this is still attached, or you can take these two out and then break it loose from the hose, because after all, we are replacing the housing as well. Once you've done that, then you'll have your thermostat exposed. This is a very good tip here, guys. Always orient that little guy with the top, which in this case, they even put a little mark there just to remind you that this needs to be facing the very top. Let's go ahead, pull this guy out and do a little quick inspection. And would you look at that, more of that clamp type of stuff. But then again, I start asking myself a question: how far do I want to go? Do you start and don't stop? I'm gonna go ahead and just focus on this thermostat for now. I'm gonna pretend like I did not see that. We will, of course, be cleaning that very good to make sure we got a clean surface. But once more, I do believe we have another 28-year-old part here. This thermostat does look to me to be the OEM one, but we went ahead and we're going to replace it with this one, which was one of the most expensive ones I could find, aside from the OEM, of course. This should be more than enough, but boy, that's quite the difference, to be honest with you. This looks like it had a lot better built behind it, just because it looks much bulkier than that does. But hey, they said this was for this car, so let's give it a shot, see what happens. But like I said, remember the little piece? Let's see, where do I find it? This one's, there it is. See on the inside there? Make sure that's facing up. As you guys can see, that guy facing up. And as with everything else, always match your parts. Let's finish this one up. And just like that, like nothing ever happened. Speaking of which, guys, there is one thing that I do find very annoying when I am working on the car is, and hopefully you guys understand what I'm referring to, when somebody has been in there and doesn't even bother trying to mask the fact they were in there by the placement of their clamps. As you can see here, I technically should move it a little more so it looks like nobody was ever working there. It's just a little detail, but to be honest with you, little details like that do matter. At the end of the day, if you were to look at this engine bay and automatically pick out a little mark there, seeing that somebody was in there, I don't know. Am I just OCD, or do you guys relate to what I'm saying? Let me know in the comments down below. Now this guy right here is, well, it's a lot of fun. Let me show you where this thing is actually, I think the word I'm looking for here is buried. So, coil pack, right in the back of it. It's probably gonna be super hard to show on camera, but remember how we just replaced this one? You gotta look on that same pipe, but deeper. We're looking at the connector right there. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to move some stuff out of the way. Mainly that has to do with the passenger side bank. Now that we have dismantled this thing, hopefully you guys will see it a little better. There it is, hidden all the way underneath the other one. So let's see how bad it looks. Well, would you look at this? You think there's an issue here? Wow. Certainly believe so. Jeez. Well, let's put the new one in. See what we get. While we're here, I'm gonna go ahead and sort out some of this spaghetti. Just like with everything else, guys. Always, if you do one at a time, you're not gonna get it wrong. So as of right now, I'm going from this valve right there to the back of the intake, somewhere over here. And yeah, do a little by little. And if there is indeed a cracked one, then that's always a good thing, because last thing you want in an older car is a vacuum leak. When everything is said and done, don't put the cover, beauty cover that is, back on, because as always, you want to double check your work. You want to use this really cool tool. Like I said, guys, this thing pays for itself over time. Fill it up, and you can literally walk away from this car as long as you make sure to put enough fluid in there. The funnel does all the rest. But let me go ahead, get this car out of these ramps, because this process, you want to do it in a flat surface. And that is how you do it. Super easy. Again, guys, I'm gonna go a little against what I said before. Do keep an eye on this. Make sure that you have plenty and that the hair is coming out, of course. Because I walked away from this guy for like 10 minutes. Let's see if we had a bit of a change here. Yeah, still, you see it? This guy, it looks like it's overheating, but still doing its thing. The needle was actually, believe it or not, a little higher than that, but we're gonna keep an eye on it. And the key is that we obviously don't blow this up. The trick I was trying to tell you guys before is you want to have this on hot. And obviously, if you are getting heat out of your vents, that's already a good sign. But definitely make sure that the needle doesn't look like that, because that is bad news. Let's try this one more time. As you guys saw there, she's been running a little hot because, let's face it, what happened was I did not bleed it properly, or so I am hoping. But also, as you guys notice, out of the 3 sensors this car has, I was under the impression that I was replacing this one, which I wasn't. So let's make that correct now. And if she does behave, if she behaves, we'll treat her to a new gas cap, which I think she will comply, and rightfully so, will be rewarded for it. We went ahead and also got ourselves a new radiator cap, just mostly because some of these seals are looking a bit flat and swollen in a way. So the key with this one, guys, not sure how well you can see it, it's right stamped in the middle, is the 0.9 bar, which the OEM is. This is the original cap, by the way. I wish I could have kept the sticker like so, but it is what it is. Let's go ahead and correct this inconvenient small issue. Now we got to the part that, from my understanding, from reading some of the stuff online, a lot of people struggle with, and it is the bleeding process. But we're gonna make that very easy. First and foremost, went ahead and replaced this little crush washer with a new one. The magic number you're looking for is 33 foot-pounds of torque that you're gonna torque that to. That's, of course, after you fill it up. So that is the very first step. Let's go ahead and fill it up. And of course, we're gonna do it with the good stuff. It goes without saying. I hope I don't make a mess because, yeah, not entirely sure why this sounds like a good idea, but who am I to criticize, right? Let's go ahead and fill it up. We folks are here blessed by this gorgeous weather here in New Jersey. We're doing the best we can. A little wet. Tip of advice, try to find a funnel that fits snug like so. Keep filling it. And this guy goes without saying, spill free funnel, always very helpful. So let's try to make the least amount of a mess as humanly possible. Once you got absolutely, positively no more air pockets there, with again the new crush washer, we're gonna go ahead and install our fill plug, right? And just as important, 33 foot-pounds of torque is the magic number. Now we fill that up, and then we'll get inside the car. Once you've accomplished all the steps, this is, as per Lexus, the bleeding procedure. You then start your engine. So let's go ahead and do exactly that. We start our engine, and then what they want us to do is open the heater water valve. That is basically us putting the heat on. It can be confusing to some, but I'll show you in a second what the heater water valve is. And then they want you to maintain the speed at 2,000 to 2,500 RPM to warm up the engine. That's about it. I mean, it's very easy and simple to do if you follow these steps. Fill it up from that fill plug only. Do not do it from the reservoir. Ask me how I know that. I'm not gonna bore you guys too much with this process, but basically, you know you're in the right step and procedure if you're getting heat out of your vents. I'm doing it exactly as they're asking me, and I'm holding the RPMs up there. They say roughly 5-10 minutes max. This should be good. And I do, of course, have my funnel. Not entirely sure if you guys can see it, with some coolant in there, as opposed to what they tell you to do. They tell me to install the radiator cap, but I want to be 100% sure that we get every single air pocket out of this one's system. It is slowly climbing. If you do want to make your life a lot easier and more precise, this scan gauge tool is a super awesome tool. As you can see, I am tracking it to the T, the temperature, and the magic number is, that goes to show you guys how much this car was actually overheating. You do not want to see past 183 degrees Fahrenheit. If you see that, then you did something wrong. You need to stop the engine and restart the whole process. I'll meet you guys here once we are approaching that number. We are getting close to it. I'm gonna go ahead and just lower the blower a bit so you guys can hear me. Again, of course, keeping an eye on the gauge also, but fingers crossed. I think hopefully we are going to be in good shape. I am in a second gonna stop revving it, and we will see what happens. Of course, what we want to watch here is the number drop, which is a telltale sign that your thermostat has then just opened. I don't like that. Why are we seeing 184? It should drop then. Nope, it's not dropping. This is a little frustrating. Come on. Ooh, I am seeing some bubbles. Let's go outside and see what we find. I believe there's some bubbles working their way into the funnel. just let it idle for a little bit more. As you guys can see, we are getting a nice flow here from our fan clutch, so that's definitely a plus. Let's let it idle a little bit more, and I'll bring you guys here once things are a little more normal, if you will. But don't walk away from it, guys, like I did a few days ago. You do not want to do that because you do not want to overheat this engine, right? Quite a few minutes later, I think we're approaching almost half an hour, and this number will bounce between 197 and 190. Now, if you were to ask me, based on this alone and based on the specs of the vehicle, I would tell you that chances are there's still an air pocket in here. But now follow me on this, and I'll try to do my very best to explain. So you guys can see there, my needle, I've been sitting here the whole time, has not moved any higher than that. And that, to me, my friends, is already a win. I'm going to tell you why I'm not going to let this number bother me all that much. Is because I also read somewhere, I don't know how to explain it properly, but it is my understanding that the bus signal gets converted to the cluster from the sensors, and then the reading here. And see, this makes absolutely no sense that it would even show 200. And I'm going to tell you why. Because the needle has never moved. So that tells me that this thing is giving the faulty readings from the sensors to the computer. Now, if that's not frustrating, I don't know what is. All I can tell you is that the needle is no longer pinned to hot like I've seen it a few times. And that, to me, is an accomplishment. So I'll keep a close eye on this. But yeah, that's the best information I got for you guys so far. So I'm going to shut it down, walk away from it, and then check the coolant level once more and close it up. That should have done it. Again, you want to make sure that you got heat coming out the vents, and if you do, that is a clear indication that you have bled your system properly. If any of you guys out there is experiencing something similar, please let me know in the comments down below. This is definitely extremely frustrating, but that's the beauty of owning an old car, nonetheless. So we'll keep an eye on it. So it looks like I got my little helper here with me today. That's a little heavy, right? She's gonna go ahead and swap this out for me. Now you guys are probably wondering, why are you gonna try to replace that? Well, there's some clear indication here that over time some of the soil has escaped. So you know what? Better safe than sorry. All right, you put it in. What do you think? Yep, she's gonna take care of it. It does go without saying, be careful with these fins, as this is of course plastic. You'll have 4 nuts, and you will swap this into the new unit. And not much to it. Little tip of advice: if you want to use a little bit of a tread lock, that's always smart. So yeah, that's the way I do it. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. Another quick tip, hopefully this makes somebody's life easier. You do not have to take this off. You do not have to take that off. You do not have to take that off. I happen to have this off right now because I'm still going to bleed the system. But another one, you do not necessarily have to take the belt off. The reason why I say that is because it does tend to make the pulley wobble a bit. But you should have enough room to start all these nuts with the belt in it. Should be absolutely no problem. And you can sneak this in with all these components in place. This is just for you guys to see how wild of a goose chase this is. 202, right? Does look a little bit on the warmer side, but I tell you what does this guy say? Yeah, I think that's more like it, huh? What does this tell you guys? have a bad cluster, don't we? Yep. But hey, on the plus side, this fan works beautifully. And this is basically just to make my point. See 206? Look at that cluster. Yep. This thing is as accurate as our politicians. So the point I'm trying to make here with this video, guys, is very simple. If you're on the market to buy an LS400, which don't let me deter you from doing so, they are still very much great cars. This LS400, although I no longer own it, was definitely one of the most comfortable, if not the most comfortable car I have ever owned. And believe me, I've owned quite a few. The point I want to make here is very simple. If you buy one or own one, take this out. You know what this is. This is that giant cluster that your LS400 has, and send it out. The capacitors on these things always cause all sorts of problems. And as you saw here, it will leave you chasing after all types of crazy things. So do yourself a favor, invest money in repairing this guy, and you will be a-okay. Because after all, they are very robust and very reliable cars nonetheless. Guys, as always, I hope you found this video to be informative. If you did so, do not forget to smash that like button. If you haven't done so, don't forget to subscribe. I'm sorry for all of you that tuned in for the LS400 content. This is, unfortunately, the last episode because, as I'm sure some of you know, I have gone ahead and buy one of my dream cars. The LS400, believe it or not, was never a dream car. I have always chased after an LS430. I'm not saying that there isn't a possibility that I might go down that route eventually, possibly, who knows, in the future. But for right now, there's a lot of FJ Cruiser content, 4Runner, and all of the above. Some Land Cruiser stuff coming up. But until the next time, guys, I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I will catch you guys on the next one.